Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane. We are glad you're here. My name is Isabel Call, and I'm the intern minister, and I bring you greetings from Reverend Todd Eckloff, who's preaching this morning in Montana. Today, we're celebrating Generosity Month with some amazing musicians from the congregation, so you're in for a real treat. But whatever you're here for, and wherever you came from, you are welcome. In our abundance of unique ways of being in the world, here in this sacred space, we join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in the wider world. Or, in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Before we greet each other, I want to invite Aria up to make some special introductions.
Good morning. My name is Aria Curtis. I'm the Director of Children and Family Ministry here at the UU Church of Spokane. And as some of you know, the Unitarian Universalist Association General Assembly will be in Spokane this coming June. It is a unique opportunity for building relationships with UUs from all over and to learn from one another. This weekend, the General Assembly planning team has come from all over the U.S. to Spokane to tour the convention center and meet with our local planning team leaders. I'd like to invite forward to welcome Deb Boyd, Jolanda Walter, Reverend Jen Grayson, Denise Rhymes. I'd also like to take this opportunity to honor our local planning team, Stephanie Sampson, Nancy Avery, and Phyllis Thayer are here this morning. Also in Spokane this weekend have been the staff for the youth programming at General Assembly. They are not in this room with us, but they are in the building with us, still planning. Their names are Stevie, Julia, Andreas, Tyler, Sarah, Carrie, Tyler, Emiloa, Heather, Alona, Bo, Camilla, Zoe, Michaela, Emma, Iris, Peyton, and Mackenzie. I'd also like to invite forward Sandy Williams, editor of the Black Lens and director of the Carl Maxey Center. Sandy's not here. We will honor her anyway. We are very excited to say that the Carl Maxey Center will be the recipient of Sunday's collection at General Assembly on June 23rd. Welcome to all of you. We are so glad to have you with us this morning. If you'd like to know more about General Assembly and that particular Sunday collection, please find any of these wonderful people after the service, read about it in next month's Sun, or go to uua.org/GA. Registration costs go up on May 1st, so now is a great time to decide to go. And speaking of General Assembly registration, I encourage you to consider giving to the General Assembly Family Scholarship fundraiser in the back of our Friendship Hall. It will ensure that all of our youth and young families who would like to participate in General Assembly are able to. And it will enable us all as a whole to experience this wonderful event together. Now, please rise in body or spirit and greet each other.
I encourage you to continue these conversations over coffee or tea after the service. And now we transition from arriving here to being here with the lighting of our chalice. This symbol of Unitarian Universalism represents our unity and solidarity, our openness and inclusion, our community and individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those who are in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need. And may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it has been found.
Our opening words this morning reflect the theme of generosity of spirit. It is a poem by Dr. Robert Carroll, a psychotherapist and member of the National Poetry Therapy Association. He participated in a poetry therapy grant that matched patients with brain tumors with poets. And his poem is entitled Amazing Change. We can go through amazing changes when we are faced with knowing we have limited time. After one woman got brain cancer, she decided what she wanted was to go to Africa to see the gorillas. She and her husband and the guides began the long trek through the jungle, up the mountains. But the woman was having trouble. The guides tried to convince her to go back, but she wouldn't. She struggled and struggled. Eventually, she won the guides over, and everyone was rooting for her. But there came a point she couldn't go on. So she lay down on the grass, and when she did, the gorillas came out of the jungle to her.
Our first in-service hymn of the morning is Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky, and it has one of those skipping rhythms, which makes it kind of fun and lilty to do. So please stand as you're willing and able to sing Touch the Earth and Reach the Sky, number 301, if you care to access a hymnal.
I'd like to invite all the young and young at heart forward. There's one. I bet there are more. This is a fun time to come forward, a fun day to come forward, because you're going to have the opportunity to hold a piece of ice. And Arya is going to help out with that. And Lisa is also going to help out. And we'll find everybody who wants can hold a piece of ice. I think we might have enough. And we'll find the oldest person who wants to hold a piece of ice. And we're going to time that person for how long they can hold the ice before it gets too uncomfortable to hold it anymore. So who would like to hold a piece of ice? Got a few takers. Okay, come on up, and you can stand up. Yeah, that sounds good. Now, who is the oldest person here? Ooh, just stand off. How old are you? 11? How old are you? Okay, all right. So, and what's your name? Rebecca? Great. So, when Rebecca gets a piece of ice, Lisa is going to start the timer. And Rebecca, I'm going to ask you to hold it in one hand until it starts to feel a little bit painful. And then you can drop it back. This isn't a competition. You're not trying to hold it the longest, just till it's uncomfortable. Okay, so while you guys are holding your ice, I want to teach you a vocabulary word. It is proxy. Can everybody say that? Proxy, great. So a proxy is something that substitutes for something else. For example, we're having a congregational meeting in June where we'll make decisions together by voting. But some members might be out of town, so they can ask a friend to be their proxy during the votes. But some of our decisions are really important, like changing the bylaws, so you can't have a proxy to vote on those. Okay, so a proxy is a really useful substitute, but it's not exactly the same thing. All right, so how long did Rebecca hold the ice? 46 seconds. Okay, thank you very much. Now, for something completely different, maybe you guys want to, can you all put your ice back in the bowl? And then I'm going to ask everybody who's here on the floor to rise in body or spirit, stand up, and I'm going to teach you all a dance. Okay, and everybody's sitting. You can join the dance too. You don't have to sweat to enjoy the fun. So can everybody see me? I'm going to be doing a dance over here. So the first move is we put our arm down, up, down, and then cross our hearts. Can everybody do that? Right arm, down, up, down, cross. Okay, and now we do it with the other arm. Actually, do your right arm now. Up. Okay, and now we're going to do both arms together. And now, lift your arms up very slowly in a circle. Beautiful. Okay. Enjoy the slow motion. Okay, let's do it all together. Okay, let's go. Up, down. Both arms. And now our slow circle. Excellent. All right, now with some music. Everybody, let's see. How about everybody take a seat except Rebecca and Aria, and we're going to do the ice thing again. You still have your ice? Okay, you can hold on to it if you want. Okay, so while Rebecca holds the ice again, I am going to tell you why we're doing ice and dancing on the same time for all ages. were playing with a research study by a scientist named Bronwyn Tarr. She's a neuroscientist, and she was testing whether dancing together helped people build community. But how do you know if there is more community after dancing together than before dancing together? How do you measure community? What is a good proxy for community? Well, when people love each other, their brain creates something in their body called endorphins. And when you have endorphins floating around in your body, you are less bothered by discomfort. So if you're feeling more connected to community, you should be able to hold an ice cube for longer. So how long did Rebecca hold it that time? About 41 seconds. Ah, you're breaking the experiment. Of course, this wasn't a real scientific experiment, but I hope that getting your body involved help you understand it a little bit and have some fun. And if you'd like to have more fun, please come next Saturday to our Pledge Fest. There will be activities all day to get your endorphins pumping, including cinnamon rolls for breakfast, ecstatic dance, yoga, and Zumba, lunch, and workshops and samplers of our ongoing programs. There's childcare all day and an all-ages potluck with fabulous music provided by our very own members. Everyone is invited. Now, as usual, we will be lighting the children's chalice, and Lisa will be saying some words. So let's all gather around the children's chalice, and then as the congregation sings, you all can follow Aria out to Children's Chapel.
We light this second chalice so that as our children and youth go to their chapels, they carry the light of our flame with them. May it illuminate, inspire, and warm you as it does us. Before we begin our traditional offertory words, I have been asked to say a few words about what the church means to me. I have been a member here for nearly 30 years and raised 2 daughters in the church. I come for inspiration and support, the friendships and the caring, and the companionship along the hard road as we work towards a more just and hopeful world. As you consider your pledge, please think about what this church means to you. We now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which sustains this community and its mission to the larger world.
And this is musically a participatory offertory. You will see up on the board, you will see the chorus to this song, and that's when it's your turn. And you can clap with the chorus, but if you want to hear the verses, don't clap with the verses. Okay, so get ready. Here we go.
It's finished now.
All God's creators got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands and paws or anything they got now. All God's creators got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands and paws or anything they got now. singing in the rain. The little dog quacks and he's on his way. Possum ain't got too much to say, and the possum sings to himself. All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now.
The dogs and the cats, they take up the middle while the honeybee hums. The cricket fiddles, the donkey brays, the pony neighs, and the old coyote howls.
Listen to the bass, it's the one on the bottom where the bullfrog croaks. The hippopotamus moans and groans with the big to-do, and the old cow just goes moo.
All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands, their paws, or anything they got now. It's a simple song of living sung everywhere by the ox and the fox and the grizzly bear, the grumpy alligator and the hawk above, the sly raccoon and the turtle dove. All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands, their paws, or anything they got. All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands, their paws, or anything they got. All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands, their paws, or anything they got now. All God's critters got a place in the choir.
Thank you. Each time we gather as a congregation, we bring a range of feelings. We bring joy and we bring sorrow. Such is being a human. This is a moment to honor our depth and our complexity. And it is a moment to honor our connections to others who are not here in the room, but with us in our minds and hearts. Let us share a moment of silence, wrapping them in our love and care, and you are welcome to say their names aloud if you'd like. Those named aloud, those remembered in the silence, and all those who are suffering elsewhere in our world this hour, we hold in our community of compassion.
Now is the time in our service for meditation. Please find a comfortable posture, put your feet on the floor, take a couple of deep breaths, close your eyes if you wish. I will lead you into the silence with this quote from writer Ursula Le Guin. Love doesn't just sit there like a stone. It has to be made, like bread, remade all the time, made new.
Hello, my name is Mary Lou Johnson, and I'm the co-chair for the Spokane Alliance team in the church. I want to begin by telling you two things so you can make a little more sense of what I'm going to say. The first thing is that I feel compelled to act to make our world better for my grandchildren, for Kayla, for Emma, and Ellis. I think that's probably pretty understandable, as I assume most of us see that real gap between the world as it is and the world that would reflect our UU principles. The principles of justice and equity and compassion in human relations, and the belief in the inherent worth and dignity of each person. Second, you need to know that I am passionate about using one-to-one meetings with people to move us toward that world that we think should exist. That one might take a little more explanation. You might say, what are one-to-one meetings, and why would they be the key to the change we want to see? So very briefly, a one-to-one meeting is an intentional conversation between two people, which is public. So that's as opposed to a conversation in your private sphere with your family or with your friends. And the goal of that public conversation is to share what matters most to each person and to see if there's any action that they might want to take together to make the world more just and more equitable. These meetings are the most radical tool that the Spokane Alliance teaches in our leadership institutes. They say to the other person, you are worth listening to. Your values and concerns are important. And because the Alliance is committed to working for the common good, we use those one-to-one meetings to see if that other person is ready to take action around what they care the most about. Now, a quick side note. A one-on-one meeting is not a way to make friends. It's not a way to get somebody to join your committee. It's not an interview, it's not therapy, and it certainly isn't chit-chat. At its best, the one-on-one meeting is an art form, and it can be profoundly moving. So the Spokane Alliance team in the church has been doing these meetings for a while, and our goal is to know people better and discover what their concerns and passions to act are, either within the church or within the broader community. So I'd like to give you an example of how one-on-one meetings can achieve that goal. Last August, here in the church, we had Social Justice Sunday, and I described that the Spokane Alliance had successfully gotten approved a jail alternative for those who were experiencing mental health crises in our city. After the service, Cameron Vesey came up to me and said, you know, what the jail really needs is books for the inmates to read. I filed that idea. A few months later, I was having a one-on-one with Bob Fendler. Bob was about to retire from his duties in the state prison libraries, and he had an interest in social justice work, just not sure what he was going to be doing. So I mentioned to him Cameron's concern about the lack of books in the jail. Bob immediately began laying out the details for a program to provide those books. About the same time, Sally Ray, another member of the Church Spokane Alliance team, had a one-to-one meeting with Karen Olson. If you know Karen, one of her passions is reading. So when I asked Karen and Cameron if Bob's project was of any interest, they were both all in. Those three people first met, this is important, February 28th. They formed Rehab for Reading, got approval from the jail director for the program, and in less than 6 weeks have already delivered more than 12 copy paper-sized boxes of books to the jail, and some of them are leftover paperbacks from our own library. These are three UUs acting on what they care about to make the world better. And that's the real power of one-to-one meetings. So imagine with me if we intentionally were using these one-to-one meetings more as we related to each other. Imagine us saying to that other person, you are worth listening to. And imagine how many actions we could take together to move the world closer to our principles. That, you see, is the world that I want for my grandchildren. Thank you.
If all the world were peaceful now and forevermore, peaceful at the surface and peaceful at the core, all the joy within my heart would be so free to soar. And we're living on a living planet, circling a living star. I don't know where we're going, but I know we're going far. We can change the universe by being who we are. And we're living on a living planet, circling a living star. If all the world knew justice now and forevermore, justice at the surface and justice at the core, all the joy within my heart would be so free to soar. And we're living on a living planet, circling a living star. I don't know where we're going, but I know we're going far. We can change the universe by being who we are. And we're living on a living planet, circling a living star. If all the world knew freedom now and forevermore, freedom at the surface and freedom at the core, all the joy within my heart would be so free to soar. And we're living on a living planet, circling a living star. I don't know where we're going, but I know we're going far. We can change the universe by being who we are. And we're living on a living planet,
Thank you so much, Claire and Michelle. In a sermon during her church's generosity campaign, Reverend Virginia Safford tells a story of a woman getting off the subway on a cold afternoon. On the platform, she senses that she's only holding one of her gloves. And as she looks back onto the train, she sees that indeed, the other glove is on the seat she just left. The doors begin closing. And what does she do? She tosses the glove in her hand onto the seat to join its mate. Safford reflects, she must have lived a long life of generosity, a life of wild and creative generosity of spirit, to be able to think so quickly, to act so urgently and healthily, to know precisely in that moment what would bless the world right then and there. Today, I'm interested in exploring not just how we can individually cultivate long lives of wild and creative generosity of spirit, but also how humanity as a whole does so. And so I want to start with some evolutionary psychology, social bonding among primates. The main method chimpanzees and other apes have for building relationships is grooming, picking bugs out of each other's fur. I bet you didn't expect to hear about bugs in fur today at church. But it's very important, and here's why. Beyond the basic necessity of hygiene that we apes need some help with sometimes, social grooming also releases endorphins. So in one scientist's words, you feel warm and cozy toward whoever is grooming you. And then you're more likely to help them out in times of need. Even if it's not a transactional thing, you eat my bugs and I eat yours, so that better bonded individuals fare better in life. Better bonded groups fare better because they're more resilient. But there's only so much group cohesion that can grow out of one-on-one grooming sessions. Even if an ape spent all her waking hours grooming other apes, she'd still have a small number of bonded friends. Human societies are bigger than other primate societies, so we must have developed other ways to create community. This is the topic taken up by neuroscientist Bronwyn Tarr, who hypothesized that music and dance were the next step evolutionarily, allowing us to engage with each other in larger groups than if we stuck to pairwise connections. In an audio story on PRX, I heard her say, that feeling that you get when you find yourself in a surprising yet perfect oneness with others, in the presence of music. I get it every time I dance. Why does it have that intense effect on people when they engage with others through music and dance? As an evolutionary neuroscientist, she was predisposed to think it must have something to do with survival. She went to rural Brazil to work with teenagers and test her hypothesis. Her plan was to teach them 3 simple dance moves with synchronized steps and test their warmth and coziness before and after they danced together. Through a series of experiments, she found that their endorphins were raised by dancing together. Actually, she used a pain threshold as a proxy for endorphins, which is a proxy for warmth and coziness. Such is science. Now, it wasn't just the exertion that made people feel good about being together, because even sitting in chairs and dancing a slow, no sweat, but synchronized version of the dance did the trick. And if you're skeptical about the warmth and coziness variable, Bronwyn Tarr's research subjects also said they liked each other better after dancing. If you know me, you're probably not surprised at how tickled I was to hear this story on the radio driving home from church. But it's not just because I'm a dancer. I'm also delighted by this apparent evolutionary link between one-on-one relationships and the success of large groups, that grooming each other and dancing together do the same thing to us physiologically. Because as much as I relate to the dancing teenagers in the research study, I also relate to the apes grooming each other. There are a range of ways that humans have for getting that feeling of surprising yet perfect oneness with others. And I see church encompassing them all. On a spiritual level, I'm awed and grateful that humanity stumbled upon methods of bonding with people beyond our intimate spheres. People we don't have to touch physically, people we may not even ever meet. And on a practical level, UU Church is a way to practice and affirm these connections. When I arrived here last fall, Mary Lou contacted me to do a one-on-one meeting. We sat in the chapel back there, overlooking the garden, and even though I was new to the community, I began to feel a part of it, because I felt like I knew Mary Lou. Later, when I took the Spokane Alliance leadership training, I realized what she had been up to. She was building a public relationship with me. It was a little like friendship, but somehow bigger. She really wanted to get to know me, but not out of curiosity or pure kindness, or because she wanted something from me, but because she expected that my personal story would connect to hers. Sharing our individual stories would allow us to start living a shared story. She wasn't just grooming me, she was grooming me for the work of the church. Ultimately, as you may suspect if you know Mary Lou, she wanted to accomplish something. But she was profoundly open-minded about what that something would be. It was like Mary Lou was inviting me to dance, inviting me to try out some of her steps and to teach her some of mine. In the conversation, she created space for us to find some completely new steps together that we might want to share with others. She was embodying and enacting a principle I sum up like this. Community is not made up of individuals, but relationships. During that one-on-one, we didn't know where we were going, but we sensed we could go far. I think this is our evolutionary destiny. Even as we continue to be nourished by close friendships and partnerships, we are evolving more expansive connections. Back in the era when economists had time to read philosophers, and philosophers could also be famous mathematicians, the economist Friedrich Hayek was inspired by the mathematician and founder of process theology, Alfred North Whitehead. Whitehead had come to believe that the world is not made up of objects, but of processes. He argued that there is urgency in coming to see the world as a web of interrelated processes, of which we are integral parts, so that all our choices and actions have consequences for the world around us. Perhaps it's not surprising that many Unitarian Universalist thinkers, with our seventh principle about the interdependent web of all existence, include Whitehead in our lineage. It may be surprising that we are cousins to Friedrich Hayek, often considered the father of neoliberal economics. But such is the interdependent web. Let's listen to our cousin for a moment. Hayek believed that the primary problem of economics is not how to allocate scarce resources, but rather how to allocate decisions to the people best equipped to make them. People who knew the most about their situation, and also how to get them the additional knowledge they needed to make those decisions. He observed that in many settings, the problem is actually solved for us, in absence of any conscious effort, because we have markets. For example, the price of beeswax goes up when people get really excited about natural candles, or when bees are suffering and producing less wax. Candle users don't know why the price goes up, but we use less and we look for substitutes. Now the price of palm oil candles goes up. The producers of other candles now make an effort to make more, and palm oil candle enthusiasts make an effort to use less, maybe even switching to paraffin. The effects of the initial change reverberate without a single conversation about the cause. With a fervor much like that of the evolutionary psychologists I discussed earlier, Hayek writes about the marvel of the price system to coordinate the actions of independent individuals, each of whom holds their own piece of the truth. He trusted the price system to enable countless people to move in the right direction without even knowing the reasons they needed to move. Hayek considered it miraculous that humanity stumbled upon this symbolic method of communicating an incomprehensible amount of information to an incomprehensible number and diversity of individuals. But many critics question this glowing review of the price system. We know that prices of goods and labor sold by people without political power is suppressed, so their buying power is limited, and they cannot trust the market to meet their needs. We know that ideologies like racism and lies like race have been concocted to justify outright theft of not just land and labor, but bodies and minds. In times and places where basic human rights are ignored, the idealized free market, which depends on people's agency to make decisions, is a sham. Not to mention the bees and other parts of our natural world who will never have a say in markets. As people who care for justice, we cannot trust the market to communicate our values seamlessly across the globe. And yet we cannot deny its function and unavoidability for pursuing our goals. So we engage in markets and insist on communicating our values other ways. We write letters to the editor and post on Facebook. We teach and educate ourselves and our children. We read the Black Lens. We vote. We donate money to organizations that help people vote, or help them get away from terror, or help them get housing and food. And we give to the church, which sustains our values, reminding us when our values slip out of our overloaded lives. We give money to the church as a natural extension of the time and presence we offer to the church. Because we are more than just our money, but how we spend our money is a useful, if imperfect, proxy of who we are. We give to the church because we know there is no proxy for community. Compared to other religious groups, Unitarian Universalists have the highest or second highest per capita income and the lowest per capita rate of giving. Just let that sink in a little bit. This is us. A common explanation for this, according to UUA staff member Vale Weller, is that we are civic-minded, and so we give to many causes beyond Unitarian Universalist community. But she challenges people who say this to think about where they develop and sustain the values inspiring that generosity. And how do they expect those values to build power to change larger systems, if not in the community that nourishes them? This is a place where we engage with each other through relationships, not transactions. So we actually have to talk about what we need from each other and how much and why. We need to know about each other and the world in order to move collectively in the right direction. We need to decide together what the right direction is, and it's often, usually, not the cheapest option. The problem with market-based coordination is that by empowering people's individualism, it discourages deepening one-on-one relationships and leveraging them. Markets enable people with privilege to survive without any conscious effort to care for our shared ground of being. This is not what we're evolving for. We're made for something more wild and creative, connections that are both expansive and deep. As the song goes, we were made for a living planet, circling a living star. I spent a lot of time studying climate change policy, and it's obvious that we must increase the price of things that harm the planet and pay reparations to those suffering the damage. But we lack the political will. So the people who benefit from painfully low prices get away with not cooperating, not paying their fair share, not showing up for their global community. And these people, well, they are us. What I hope is that we can learn. It's not just about voting for the right law. It's also about showing up for our local communities, like the church. If we can learn to give money to the church when we don't have to, and show up to meetings to decide how to spend it, then we will be building our collective capacity to transform our climate privilege into stewardship. But it all starts with a conversation. So I encourage you to connect with someone new to you in this congregation and to reflect on what your connections here mean to you. Our Pledge Fest next weekend is not just a fundraiser. It's a celebration of what inspires us to support the church. A whole day of activities for body, spirit, and mind. And yeah, we'd like you to bring your pledge form if you haven't turned it in yet. That's the excuse for the festival. The church needs your financial support. But the point is to be together, now and into the future. So come, whether you just joined the congregation last week, or you're an old hat, or this is your first Sunday, or you're watching online and you haven't yet stepped foot into the building. Come whether or not you have a potluck dish to share for dinner. Come whatever is the number on your pledge form. Do not let any obstacle prevent you from celebrating. And if you have questions or want a personal invitation, talk to our amazing generosity team and Pledge Fest planners, Sunny, Francis, Cindy, and Bonnie, who have tables in the back. Mary Lou also has a table in the back where you can ask about relational meetings and sign up to have one. And don't forget our UU friends from out of town who will be at coffee hour. Ask them why they are trekking all over the United States for Unitarian Universalism. Financial planners will tell you that middle-class Americans could double all their charitable giving and not notice any difference in their daily lives. This month is an opportunity for you to consider whether you are such a person. Statistically, it's highly likely that you are. But maybe not. Maybe you're someone whose life would improve markedly if you increased your charitable giving. Maybe you're somebody whose established practices of connecting are due for a shift, in tune with the slogan for this year's pledge campaign, "This year is different." But whatever your beat, we need your drumming. Whatever your tune, we need your humming. And whatever your ability, we need your support. So please rise in body or spirit and pour out all your pent-up energy into our final song, Let it be a dance.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to sleep. Feel the rhythm, feel the need to reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and sway. Let your body learn to bend and let the willow with the wind. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
Each morning we must hold the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, and give back. And why not dance too? Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.
Shalom.